so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
All right, welcome into the Hoosier Huddle Podcast presented by Heartwork Brewing visit heartworkbrewing.com. But first, we'll have a word from our sponsors over at Heartwork. Maybe. We'll get to that later, TJ. Welcome in. It is game week finally as we get to Indiana versus Old Dominion in the opener. So the game week's finally here, TJ. We've been waiting however many days since, December 21st, December 22nd, when IU bowed out of the college football playoff. They opened 2025 as the 20th ranked team in the country, maybe low to some people. But how are we feeling?
Excited. Very, very excited. It's one of my favorite things is college football, and to have it right on the verge of returning. Plenty of good games tonight and Friday, and then Saturday's loaded. But of course, what we all really care about is IU, and it's an interesting matchup. I think it's a type of week one game that you can enter with some trepidation because Old Dominion is plenty capable. They showed it last season. They should have beaten South Carolina. They were the better team that day, and turnovers in their own end, spelled their doom. But I think it's fair to say that if Colton Joseph would have played that day, they beat South Carolina.
Probably.
So this is a team it's very capable. Kurt Cignetti is going to be the first coach that'll tell you, yeah, they're from the Sun Belt. That doesn't mean they can't beat you. I think that one of the things that we're going to talk about is Indiana's defense playing against a mobile quarterback. I think that's going to be very interesting to watch. And then, a lot of new pieces for IU that we're going to get to look at that you have to be super excited about. Fernando Mendoza, obviously the headliner, but a lot of other guys, Roman Himby, Jonathan Brady, IU's new tight ends. There's so many storylines to follow.
Yeah, there are a ton of storylines to follow. There are also, before we get into a whole breakdown of the game, let's look at some game day changes that IU has made. There are still about 8,000 tickets left open, and that's going to play into it. ODU went into South Carolina, which is a tough place to play. They're not going to be intimidated, and they're definitely not going to be intimidated if there are 8,000 empty seats there. But IU has also changed some of their stuff they do on game day. They have moved up the walk about 10 minutes. They'll have the Hoosier Bison Walk too, where kids get to walk in after the team and touch the rock, which is kind of a cool thing to do, especially if you have a big crowd there. And then parking lots will open at 8 a.m. for the 2:30 kickoff. You could watch it on Fox Sports 1. They came to a deal. The FCC said get a deal done. They came to we'll call it the Lou Moore NCAA deal, where they just kicked the can down the road for a couple weeks. But you will be able to watch it on TV. Weather looks perfect. 73, 74 degrees, partly cloudy, partly sunny. Absolutely perfect day to go to the game. Maybe a little chilly to go to Lake Monroe. So get your tickets, head over to the game. TJ, let's look at this game from the offensive standpoint. You mentioned IU's bringing in Fernando Mendoza. CBS puts out an article yesterday that, predicts him to be the number 1 pick. Granted that Arch Manning stays at Texas. Poor Fernando Mendoza is going to end up on the Cleveland Browns, which is unfortunate, but who knows? He's the headliner. You mentioned the other transfers. You have Roman Henby, Holden Stays, Riley Nowakowski, Pat Coogan, who we've talked about all offseason.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of new pieces. And as we saw last year with this offense, they did not look great against FIU. They looked okay. They looked functional. But that game was 24-7 before Elijah Green scores a garbage time touchdown on a 51-yard run to put it away at 31-7, which is well below the average number of points that they scored. How do you see the offense gelling? How quickly do you see them coming out? And will they start as slow? At 31 points coming out of the Tom Allen era wasn't slow. But do you think they look a little bit better in game 1 this year compared to last year?
I do. And I think that a part of that kind of slow start would have to be attributed to it was also new for the coordinators at that level. It was new for the entire roster playing with that staff. Now, I know that, yes, some guys came over from James Madison. That was more on defense and less on offense. There were more transfer pieces from other places on offense, plus, Curtis Rourke, I feel like was getting his feet under him after being limited some that we found out during the preseason. So I think that there were a lot of factors that went into that. I do expect IU's offense to be a little sharper than they were in that particular contest, but I don't think it's fair to expect them to go out and just pick up immediately where they left off at the end of last season. I do think that Old Dominion, one, their linebackers is going to be a focus for IU's offense.
Yep.
Those guys can disrupt games. They're really good tackling. And they've got good depth at that position too. They've got decent size on the defensive line. I would not be particularly concerned about their ability to shut down IU running the ball. Staying balanced is still going to be something that IU strives to do. But the secondary, basically entirely new for Old Dominion. They've got a good track record of finding pieces and plugging them in. But just on paper, the secondary looks like a part that IU should be able to exploit. So if you put all this hype around Fernando Mendoza, Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper, and a good IU receiving core, you put those things together with a potential weakness at secondary, at the very least, it's a totally new secondary, right? So even if they end up being good, they're still going to be brand new. So that's the area where you look at IU's advantage and say IU can really take some shots down the field and pick on that secondary early in this game. For me, it's going to be fascinating to watch how they scheme against those linebackers to kind of, I would say, not eliminate them from the game, but sort of mitigate the damage that those guys can do, right? You want to sort of take them out of the equation and force the rest of Old Dominion's defensive players to make the difference.
Yeah, you don't want them. I mean, they could have 10 tackles apiece at linebacker if it's at the second level. You don't want them to have, 10 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss each. And they're very capable of doing that. I think
fumble,
or interception, pass deflection. They're probably the best linebacker core in the Group 5. I mean, they're returning an All-American who didn't play most of last year from injury. They have, I don't know who does their tackle stats, but it appears that every tackle
Yeah.
has ever been recorded, because
Crazy.
they have a couple guys with 160 plus tackles. But those guys could be game disruptors. And the secondary, while it's unknown, we do know what kind of players that ODU has had in the secondary in the past, as Sean Esbury and Terry Jones has come over there from IU. For me, the offense is not going to look the same. This has been a Cignetti trait since forever. He will cater his offense to the quarterback style he has. And that's what I'm interested to see, how different this offense is to set up Fernando Mendoza for success. He can throw very well in the run. So expect him to move the pocket. They're going to pull linemen. They did that last year. You've said all offseason, Roman Henby in the pass game, that's a way to get linebackers in space and force them, even though they're good tacklers, to force them to make a tackle in space, where if you miss, Roman Henby could take it to the house and things like that. So I want to see also how LeBron Bond, how this slot receiver works in with Jonathan Brady, Mekhi Jackson, LeBron Bond. How does EJ Williams look and things like that? I think IU on offense is more talented than Old Dominion on defense, even though Old Dominion is very talented on defense. So that to me is, you have the advantage there. Where it could change is turnovers. Does IU turn the ball over? Give Old Dominion a short field for that offense with Colton Joseph, and we'll get to the defense here in a second after a word from Heartwork. Can they get, keep the ball, possess the ball, and take the ball out of Colton Joseph's hands? So let's move over to defense here in a second, TJ. But first, a word from our friends over at Heartwork Brewing.
Heartwork Brewing, we are fiercely independent. From our variety of craft beers to our artisan Neapolitan-style pizzas, we put our heart into our work. We offer a full menu of draft beers, from our award-winning lagers to IPAs, sours, even our house-made seltzer. Our Northside Taproom has a variety of events and spaces for groups of all sizes. Heartwork is proud to be a locally and veteran-owned business here in Bloomington, just a stone's throw from Memorial Stadium and Assembly Hall at 1703 North College Avenue. Visit heartworkbrewing.com for hours and event info. At Heartwork.
All right, that is Heartwork Brewing. You can see Memorial Stadium from their porch. We had an awesome event over there last Friday. Great Neapolitan pizza, personal pan size, not pant size because it's Neapolitan, but personal size pizzas, good craft beer if you're into that. And I believe you could get it to go. So, head over to Heartwork. Let's switch over to the defensive side, TJ. Indiana returns 3 All-Americans, 1 at each level, starting with the defensive line with Mikhail Kamara. He is switching over to that stud position to try to get him more favorable matchups. You have Aiden Fisher, who's the heartbeat of the defense, really the heartbeat of the team at linebacker, and then D'Angelo Pons over at corner, who's I don't like the moniker try 5 get 6. It should be try 5, it's going to cost you 6, or try 5 pick 6. If you try 5 and get 6, then I don't know if D'Angelo is doing his job right. But that's my free marketing advice of the day. Everything else
much better than the slogan.
Yes. I think Indiana's defense is in for a test in the opener. Openers are always tricky. Colton Joseph, their quarterback, led the Sun Belt in total yards with over 2,200 total yards. He only played in 9 games. So he can move the ball on the ground. He could throw the ball, and he's young. He's just a redshirt sophomore. So he's going to have experience. He's not going to be intimidated playing in Bloomington, and they'll be ready to go. They have a veteran offensive line as well, and a couple real good tackles. Their receivers are big. They're unproven at this level, but they were very successful at the JUCO level, playing in JUCO national championships and all of that stuff. Running backs, we'll see what they do. Indiana's I mean, this is Indiana's run defense, which led the nation last year against a very good rush offense who wants to hold the ball and control the game and shorten this game. What do you see as a matchup problem, a matchup advantage? Where do you see this matchup, TJ?
What immediately jumps out with Colton Joseph is his rushing ability. You look at games he had last year, and this is in the game day primer, which is coming out Friday morning. Um, Individual games of 65 yards, 68, 98, 111, 69, and 158 against Marshall. Those are very impressive numbers for a running back, incredible for a quarterback. Now, I do not think he will be able to carry the ball the volume of times that he did in a few of those games against IU's defense. I think that is setting him up for punishment. So I don't expect that to be the game plan from Old Dominion in week one, is run him, 24 times. But that is going to be part of their offense. Now, IU last season played some good running quarterbacks, not too many great ones. I think Riley Leonard was probably the one that stands out the most. And you look at what IU did against Riley Leonard versus what Leonard did against the rest of the opponents that he played in the college football playoff. Indiana was the best against him. It limited him to 30 yards on 11 attempts. Aiden Childs, they got after him all day. That was a nightmare afternoon for Aiden Childs. Devon Williams, 3 carries for 15 yards for Washington. Jack Lausch at Northwestern, he had a few successful runs, but again, 34 yards on 9 rushes. So the trend for Indiana was doing a really good job of limiting the damage that these rushing quarterbacks could do. We will see how that translates to this season with some new personnel. But as you mentioned, the heart of the defense, right back in the middle, Aiden Fisher. Are you going to have maybe a spy on him? You don't have Jalen Walker, who was a big part of limiting those rushing quarterbacks. Elijah Hardy, does he factor in there? Is it somebody like Amari Farrell is used as kind of a spy? It'll be interesting to see how IU attacks that part of Old Dominion's offense. And then those big receivers going against IU's secondary, which is a real strength for this team, but not the biggest group of corners, right? Now, it's never bothered D'Angelo Pons. Jamari Sharp is a pretty good size for a corner. Amarian Knight and Rylan Gandy, decent size for corners. But does that size of the Old Dominion receivers, does that cause any issues? I personally don't think so. I think Old Dominion's going to have a hard time consistently throwing the ball against IU, particularly if the Hoosiers can dial up the pressure and start getting to Colton Joseph on a consistent basis. He was just under 60% completion rate last season. He'll have to do a little bit better than that to keep them in this game. And that's going to be hard if IU can dial up that pass rush. But the key is going to be on those kind of third and short, third and medium situations where Colton Joseph takes off. Is IU able to get their offense off the field with the stop? Or does Joseph pick up the first down and Old Dominion churns another 2 or 3 minutes off the clock with another sequence of downs? That's going to be really the key to watch for me.
Yeah, that's it. Because you could cover their receivers and he could take off and get those chunk plays and chunk yards and move on. I think you could put Lou Moore, since he's eligible to play in the first 2 games so far. You could put him there. Do you trust Byron Baldwin yet to put him in there? You don't want to see somebody get hurt, but if IU could put a lick or 2 on Colton Joseph early and just put it in his mind that, hey, I'm good, because they said it before the Notre Dame game, they're going to try and punish the quarterback and make him pay for it. And I think they did that to Riley Leonard. Now, look, Notre Dame won the game, but it'll make you think. To me, on defense, you got to take the ball away. ODU does turn the ball over a lot. They were at minus 3 in the turnover margin last year. That's what cost them the South Carolina game. It was 2 fumbles inside their own 10-yard line, and South Carolina scores touchdowns, and they win by 4 points at home. So opportunities for turnovers and takeaways will be there. We'll see if IU can take over. On the pass rush side, this is what you got Kellen Wyatt and Stephen Daly and Mikael Kamara on there for. Their offensive line probably can't stand up against IU the entire game. IU's got too much depth on the defensive line with Hosea Wheeler, Tyreek Tucker, Mario Landino on the inside, and some other guys. They could throw, 4 or 5 guys at you while you're going to look for maybe a backup lineman to come in and give them a break. Now, ODU does get a break that'll be 70 degrees instead of 95 degrees, but still, we've seen Indiana's defense just be relentless in that. And I think that's where eventually ODU will break down, is on the offensive line. So let's move into the IU will raise the victory flag if. This is, I have an article coming out later today on it, but I will give you one of my keys that is not score more points than the other team. Keys to raising the victory flag, and I kind of hinted at it, but to me it's don't let this team hang around and don't give them hope. That's what South Carolina did. Yeah. They've been in that position. I'm sure all off season they talked about let's finish that game. And if we're in that situation again, this is not going to happen. Don't put them in that situation. Take all hope away, and put them away early. And that doesn't mean just race out to a big lead and sit on the ball. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep the game plan, and stay true to your identity, which Kurt Cincinnati has done. He hung 77 points up on Western Illinois, 66 should have been more on Purdue, but it's not in his nature to take his foot off the gas, and I think that's what IU needs to do is take their soul early. What is your one key?
Yeah, so it was mentioned when I was talking about Colton Joseph. Indiana's going to win this game if they can limit the rushing of Colton Joseph, turn him into primarily a passer, and Old Dominion's offense becomes much less dangerous. I'm confident in Bryant Haynes' ability to come up with the scheme with the IU personnel at hand to make life difficult for Old Dominion's sophomore quarterback.
It's also, they're familiar with this ODU staff too. They've played them in the past in the Sun Belt, and it's kind of weird to talk about that. Hey, they're familiar with the Sun Belt team, but they played them at JMU and beat them twice. And Ricky Ronnie is still there, so the scheme is probably similar and things like that. So they know this ODU team. They know how dangerous they could be, and they'll scheme up pretty well. And Brian Haynes, even if they didn't know ODU, you trust him to come up with the scheme. All right. On the flip side, TJ, IU can't have this happen.
Yeah, I think that the easy answer here is also the correct one. Turn the ball over. That is the quickest way to take an opponent that you are superior to, but not overwhelmingly so, right? I mean, the spread here is 23 and a half, 22 and a half, wherever you get it. It's not 45, right? This is not like we'll see in a couple weeks with Indiana State or Kennesaw State, where IU could probably play a C game and win comfortably. Indiana will have to play well to win this game comfortably. And if you start making mistakes by turning the ball over, especially if it's in your own end, and you give Old Dominion free points, you can find yourself in a ball game real quick.
Yeah, I'm going to go, you can't lose the chunk play battle. That's if Old Dominion is ripping off runs of 10 yards, passes of over 15 yards, and controlling the game that way, IU will have trouble putting this team away. You have to keep everything in front of you. If they get, whatever, 4 or 5 yards, that's fine, but eliminate the 20-yard pass or the 15-yard run. And on the flip side, IU's offense has to create those chunk plays too. Move the ball downfield. The more plays you have, the more plays you run, the higher chances you have of making a mistake. That's Kirk Cignetti's football 101. So, if ODU is going to drive the ball down the field, make them do it in 13 plays because they're bound to screw up on one of those. Just like IU is probably bound to screw up on one of those plays too if you're running a 13-play drive. That's just college football. Let's go over and look at the lines. I'm using BetMGM until we can get a paid sponsored here, TJ. BetMGM has IU at minus 23.5, at minus 115 as well. The over points is 54.5, both at minus 110. 88% of the spread bets are on IU, and 56% of the bets are on the over 54 points. 98% of the money is on IU. Where are you going with this?
Yeah, just looking at the betting trends, it would tell you to bet on Old Dominion. But I believe in this coaching staff. And I also do think personnel-wise that there are areas that Indiana will be able to exploit that I don't think Old Dominion will have an answer for. I do not think that their secondary can consistently cover IU's receivers. I think that Surratt and Cooper and EJ Williams are too good for Old Dominion's untested secondary to consistently cover. I also think that Indiana will eventually be able to wear down Old Dominion's defensive front with an offensive line that's just bigger and more physical than what Old Dominion typically goes against. So I think IU will be able to lean on them as the game goes on. So I would take Indiana minus the points. I think I'd probably lean towards the under, though, given the tempo of the game. I do think it's going to be kind of a little bit more of a low possession game than what IU would prefer. I think Old Dominion's going to do everything they can to condense this thing. So I'd probably lean towards the under, but I'd stay away from that point total. But I like IU at minus 23.5, covering it and winning by about 27, 28 points eventually. I think Old Dominion will make it interesting in the first, but IU puts them away with superior depth.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth, and I think on my Old Dominion preview when I talked to them, I said 41-20 IU, which is a comfortable 21-point win, but you don't cover the spread. I do think it's an opener. You have a quarterback who can make some plays that once IU settles in should be able to stop, but how many points do they get early? I always like betting the over. Betting the under is betting against fun. It might be stupid, but it is. You're betting against fun, and nobody wants that. But yeah, we'll get into predictions here. I think, if you're an emotional bettor, take ODU and the 23.5. I do think if it was 22 or 22.5, that might change my mind if you could get that. But an IU 20-plus point win, and if you could win a couple bucks with ODU covering, it's a heck of a Saturday. Predictions, TJ, we'll start off with yours.
So I'm going to go Indiana winning this game 38-14, which would put you just a tick under and would put you covering by, a point, half point, depending on the number you get. So 38-14 Indiana. I think it'll be something like 7 to 10 point game at halftime. And there'll be a little bit of nervous grumbling, if you will, that, hey, we're not beating them by 60 yet. What the hell's wrong with us? Oh, we suck again.
Let's go to the Hoosier Huddle forums and put that in there.
Yeah,
Hopefully that's
I
what
think
people
there
are
will be
saying.
a little bit of that at halftime. Not that IU's going to play poorly, but just Old Dominion's a capable opponent, and it's the first week. So a little bit of that IU then stretches it out in the second half with, a couple of big plays and just wearing Old Dominion down on the fronts on the line of scrimmage. So Indiana 38-14, and hopefully a healthy game to get you to week 2, where you can start to build on that rotation and build on your depth through week 2 and 3 to get ready for Illinois.
Yeah, I'm going to go 41-20. It's what I said over on the ODU side. Indiana wins 41-20. Again, probably pulls away, and ODU will put some points up against this defense, and we'll see how many backups play and things like that. Because you still have some questions on whether or not Lou Moore is going to be eligible after the Kennesaw State game. And so do you throw Byron Baldwin into the fire and try and build him up? Do you move Devin Boykin around? So I do think there are plenty of things to work on that might be you'll live with in a game that you win, but you might give up a chunk play that leads to a touchdown or a field goal on the other side. TJ, some things that are coming up on the site on Friday night. We will have our weekly Indiana football chat. We've moved it off of Thursday since it's the coaches show tonight. It will be on YouTube. Discord was a total disaster. And we're going to move it to YouTube and do a live stream, send in your questions and things like that. We'll also have our game day thread on our site in the forum. So instead of live tweeting everything, we'll have all the updates from the game. TJ will be in the thread. I'll be in the thread during commercial breaks at the game, and then one of our writers will be on the thread from the game as well. We'll have updates on injury reports, just observations from the game. And then, of course, if you want to come celebrate, complain, whatever you want to do, keep it respectful, follow the rules, and we'll be there to listen to everything. Also, our summer special ends at kickoff on Saturday at 2:30. Prices raised from $15 to $30 for the year. So if you haven't signed up and subscribed already, do that. Otherwise, if you're looking for our post-game stuff that is behind the paywall, it'll cost you $30 for the year. Monthly stays the same at $3 a month. So enjoy college football. It's back. A couple of IU opponents will play tonight and tomorrow. And then Saturday comes, beautiful day in Bloomington. If you're heading down, we'll have our tailgate out, hopefully starting around 11:30, depending on traffic. But lot 11, we'll have our flag up, a tent. Come stop by, talk some ball, and maybe have a beverage. So thanks, TJ. Any final thoughts from you?
As Kurt Signetti said, we don't go to war. We're just covering this site, but it is time to go to work. We've waited a long time for this. I know we're really excited. Hopefully everyone wants to take this journey with us. The season is all too short, and we're going to savor every Saturday that we get. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, every Saturday, every Friday night, because we got 2 of those this year. It is a lot of fun, and then hopefully a nice run into the postseason. We could take you guys into January and the new year. So keep coming back to HoosierHuddle.com. Follow us on X at Hoosier_Huddle. We're on TikTok as well. We have the young guys running that one, TJ. So follow us. Head over to Heartwork if you need food before the game and don't want to tailgate. And then outside of that, keep coming back.